Hey, welcome back to the BroncPod, and I am back again with my one and only Zailee. So today we're diving into a pretty spicy topic, but Zaylee's gonna be the one taking over today, so I get to ride passenger princess while she gets to start conversation. So
Heck
Zay, what
yeah.
are we talking about today?
So today we're going to talk a little bit about college relationships, stigma behind them, and maybe some tips and tricks from,
Tips and
tricks.
tricks.
You're in a healthy relationship. I am single, so I can't really say much. But no, we're just going to dive right in.
All right.
College relationships. So the big thing, hookup culture for us. I feel like it's definitely a very normalized thing nowadays to participate in hookup culture.
Yes.
So, what are your thoughts on like what hookup culture is and like how would you define hookup culture?
I always believed that hookup culture was like the one time transaction or one time interaction, and it was always like non-committal.
Mm-hmm.
It was more of like we both know what needs to happen, or we both know what we want, and after whatever is done, then either we can go back to just being friends, or we can, which is sometimes really hard to do, or we can talk here and there, or just completely ghost, which sometimes kind of like happens almost like 80% of the time, just also depending on how well the interaction went. And not all of the time does it have to be sexual. It can always, just be like a nice date, or, we went to the movies, or we just went and got food. But some of the times it can be in sexual nature, and it can happen once or it can happen multiple times. And it's more of like, hey, like, I need something. So, like, can you provide that for me type of situation without giving me like the type of, I guess, reassurance or type of commitment that a relationship can give me, because I'm not looking for that right now. And that is, kind of versatile. Like, multiple people could be like, hey, I'm just not looking for anything. And some people can agree with that. Like, other people can be like, yeah, like, I'm also not looking for something. And, like, that can also be okay.
Yeah.
But it also comes to a point where if you're doing it very often, just being safe and being mindful also to people's feelings and, you know, their bodies as well. So
Yeah. I think the recent like normalization of hookup culture has definitely like switched the ideas of normal dating now.
absolutely.
Where it's become a lot more prevalent to have more like situationship type relationships.
Yeah. Before, like, it's not like black and white anymore. It's not
No.
like, let me ask you out on a date after the football game, or let me like come up to you
Yeah.
and ask you. Like, it seems very like touchy.
Yeah, it seems it's like commitment to a relationship is such a like touchy topic now that people are like afraid to just be bold and ask, yeah, like I want to take you out on a date. I'm interested in like getting to know you.
It just
Now it's more of like I don't really know what I want, kind of like I like you, but like I don't want a relationship, like so it crosses over into those bounds where people have relationships with each other where they're, building that close bond, but never actually having anything,
yeah.
you know?
And like, you think back to like, your grandparents and like how they met, and they're like, oh, like half the time, your grandpa was like in the army or in the navy, and they like port somewhere, and they like saw this most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life, and like I swept her off her feet, and like I asked her on a date, and then I married her like a month later. But like now it's like you don't see that.
No.
It's like, let me go on Tinder or Hinge and let me download that, and let
Yeah.
me scroll for like 30 minutes, and if they're like 20 miles or even less than that in my area, then like I guess you're a good fit. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like it's not thorough, and it's not thorough anymore. It's not like genuine.
Yeah.
And it's just so like repeat all the time, and it's like people make jokes about, Tinder being like a game. Like, I know you and I have joked about that.
Yeah.
We're gonna be honest here. We've joked about it, like, oh, it'd be a fun game, like back when I was single. Like we would just scroll on it for fun, because it was
on
something
it with your friends
to do.
to look at other
Exactly.
people's profiles
Screen
just 'cause
share
it's
on the
fun.
TV, eat some popcorn, and then we can all like talk about it. Like, it's not like real anymore, it
Yeah.
feels like. And so I understand like there's also other dating apps because I was a Tinder girl mostly, so I never like went on like Hinge or Bumble because like
Yeah.
that also wasn't popular, like at least when I was on dating apps. But like I have other girlfriends who are on like Bumble and Hinge, and like I guess like those are like way more like deep diving, I guess,
Yeah.
because it like makes one like I know Bumble, I think it makes like the girl
Yeah, it makes
or like
the girl has to like DM them or
for
like message
non-binary
them
people
first or
like that
something.
also like works like if you're non-binary or have different pronouns, like it's still the notion of you have to make the first interaction to the other person of your interest.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's something that's kind of cool, and I think with Hinge like you have all those different topics or the different
Yeah,
prompts
it
that you
like
have
goes
to
more into detail about like who you are as a person rather than just like here's a quick little
hey, here's a
bio.
picture of me, but I might be a serial killer. Like, you don't
Yeah.
know that. So it's that, I guess. So there's kind of some progress.
Yeah.
And I know that, like, I always thought it was so clever that Hinge's, like, tagline was, like, the app that needs to be deleted.
Yeah.
Because, like, you're supposed to get it and then find your forever person and then you're supposed to delete it. But, you know, like, that's also not always the case.
No.
Because I feel like it's just harder with dating apps, and like especially after COVID too, like meeting people was also a lot harder.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone just went to Tinder and went to Hinge and Bumble or like Christian Mingle. I don't know if that's your thing, like that's cool too. So like everyone went online to find somebody,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just not like any, in my personal opinion, it's a lot easier to just ask somebody out over a screen than like having the gumption
Yeah,
to be like, hey, I want to
think
ask you
that's
out.
also kind of like the bad thing about dating apps is because you do have this like in your phone, you get to see so many said people.
Mm-hmm.
Once it comes to actually meeting people, when you're out with your friends and you see somebody that's attractive, I feel like you're so much less likely to just go up to that person and be like, "Hey, can I get your number?"
Yeah.
Or like, like I love your shoes. I don't know. Like you're just so much less likely to actually go interact with them in
Yes.
person because of this app that you have, easily on your phone.
Yeah.
Um but no, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about the whole dating app trend. Like I'm not against it. Don't get me wrong. I've used it. I've used dating apps. I can't lie. It's been a fun game for me.
It's been a good ride.
it's but my time with dating apps long gone. Don't like them anymore. But no, that brings me to like when meeting somebody in person, making that like genuine connection with them, I feel like has been so much harder now in like compared to 20, 30 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
just because of the way dating has changed now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also think like it's become a lot more normalized to as like dates and dating. Nobody goes on dates anymore. Like real dates.
I feel like I agree. And like, okay, I feel like and I know some people that are, that take their partners out on dates or their significant others on like really like genuine authentic dates.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can like also blame social media for that, because I feel like at a point after COVID, people were like, okay, like let's try to bring back romance because romance is dead. And it has been dead for a while. But it's always just been like, let's go get Qdoba. Or sorry, sorry, I'm sorry. or it's been like, let's just, I don't know, drive around and go get Sonic, or just like sit in the car and listen to Juice World. Like, no, it's just not. It's like, oh, let's go on a picnic, or let's go paint, or let's take a walk through the park while the leaves are falling, and we can get like hot cocoa after. It's nothing like that anymore. It's
No.
very like, it's quick, it's easy, and it's like, okay,
there's like less thought put into it.
Yeah.
I feel like now. So yeah, people are just let's like nobody makes plans anymore.
Yeah.
To actually go on like fully set out planned dates to make it like romantic, planned out to get to know each other. Like
it's not like the rom-com movies.
It's not like the rom-com movies anymore.
I want a carriage ride through Central Park.
Which and like it doesn't always have to be the rom-com. Like I know like dating in my past, it is nice to go out on these, fancy dates or like going and planning like a picnic and doing all this. But it is also nice to have those just like moments of where you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
try as hard. So you just, you go and like drive around for a minute, listen to music, and just talk, for a couple hours. That it can be nice, but that's further along into the getting to know process. Like, I feel like, at least for me, I would prefer it further into a relationship rather than like, oh, on a first date, not having a plan.
Yeah.
But let's see. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think
Intermission.
of quick intermission, guys. Okay.
What is like your ideal date?
Oh, that's actually.
Like if you could like set up and stage like a perfect date that is like little Zailee has always dreamed of.
I think. Oh, little Zailee would go crazy. I'm not gonna lie. Little Zailee would be like, okay, take me out on the beach. Like, we're gonna go surfing. We're gonna like, stay out
skydiving.
Exactly. Like, we're gonna have the most like crazy wild day. It would be like an all day thing. Now
what they do in like The Bachelorette, where they just like take them all day and like just do a bunch of.
That would be little Zailee's idea. Now I feel like a perfect date is just like something thoughtful.
Yeah.
Is like where it piques both of our interests. Like, I know one that I personally love and I want to do so bad with, even like not even a like person I'm interested in a relationship kind of way, just with like friends, is going and watching the sunset while painting.
Yes.
I love that. I don't know, like, I love painting, so it's just like a perfect little cute idea. Sit down and paint, talk, and just, let all your feelings out.
Tell me your deep dark secrets.
Deep dark secrets. No. What's your perfect date, do you think?
Mine would probably have to be, I am like a total like loser for like just like the like I'm like I would think it's more simple, but I would say probably sitting like in a little nook somewhere in like a coffee shop, and it needs to be like raining because like it brings the cozy feeling and like the idea like they can't like just leave because it's raining outside. But like it just okay, not like that, but okay, that sounded terrible. But no, just the idea of just like cozying up in like a nice little coffee shop with, some little nice music and maybe a little treat, and just kind of diving into like what their story is about, or like what type of person they are, what kind of music do they enjoy, and then either like going for like a little rainy walk, because rainy walks are always really fun, especially in the fall time when if it's not too cold, and just like continuing conversation. Like as you know, I'm a big conversationalist. I love to yap, and so if I can like sit and yap for someone and yap and they can yap back to me, like I'm good.
Yeah.
Like I can be anywhere and can be doing anything, but as long as like they're engaging in conversation with me,
it's a good
and they seem interested, and if they're giving that same like type of energy back, like okay, well I want to know this about you, then I'm like, dude, marry me. So it just like I said, it doesn't have to be like a particular place, or we don't have to be doing a certain thing, but as long as like I'm engaging like in good conversation with that person, then I'm good.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm a big conversation person too. Like, if I'm not vibing in a conversation with you, then like, there's no point in going on this crazy date, But that kind of loops into like also finding out what you like and what you don't like in somebody that you want to eventually be with. So in that dating process where it's like you're starting those good conversations and actually getting to know somebody before making that commitment, it sets it up, understanding what you want in your future, and also things that you don't want.
Yeah, there's some things, the icks, we call them.
The icks. Because I know I've definitely been caught in a situation where, not that I was rushed into a relationship, but more so I had no idea what I wanted in a relationship and what I wanted in a partner. And so it took me like committing to that person and going through, having this good relationship with them, and then kind of out of nowhere, out of the blue, realizing like these aren't the things that I want to have in my future. And so it set me up bad, like, we both put time and effort into this, and then we had to have that hard conversation, like, this isn't gonna work out. So I think it's so much easier to date and get to know people and figure out what you like and what you don't like before actually getting into,
and it's a long process too, because I mean, like, for some people who are super lucky, unfortunately we aren't those girls. Like, it took a long time, like, personally it took a long time for me to find the person that I thoroughly enjoy. But like, for some people, they just meet those people instantly.
Well, okay, yeah, I came into college having this idea in my head that I was gonna have the exact same story as my brother, because Sean went to college, first day of freshman year, found his wife. They're married now. Like, and so, seeing that, he would talk about it when he would come home, and like, I thought I was going to have the same little love story. Like, I was fully convinced.
Find them at Fire of the Field.
No,
across the football field.
Actually, I had that idea in my head. I was like, I'm going to meet the love of my life freshman year.
I'm meeting the love of my life at Bronco Bash.
At
the volleyball tournament. Actually, in the inflatable house.
Oh, don't think that.
No,
I will say, don't think that. But, yeah, no, since I had that idea already set up in my brain before coming to college, and then it completely being ruined.
I wouldn't say it was ruined, it was just altered.
It was altered. Yeah, that's true.
Because, I mean, in your relationship, you did have really good, good high points. And
in all of my relationships, yeah, like in my past relationships,
Who hasn't?
Been fine,
Who hasn't had high and low points? But like,
exactly,
it just
They've
wasn't
great.
It just wasn't what you wanted.
No, and
expected.
It was a great learning process that I had to go through, because, it wasn't until now I feel like my frontal lobe has finally developed, and so I'm like realizing things that I did not before. But like, my whole viewpoint on dating and relationships in general has completely changed.
Yeah.
'Cause yeah, I definitely fell victim coming into college, not with necessarily hookup culture, but definitely with the ideas of not wanting to be tied down, and like, or not necessarily, not wanting to be tied down, but also wanting to like get to know people. Yeah. And so that like definitely did not help in a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
Or like trying to find a future partner. Now I'm at the point where like I don't want any more games. I'm dating to marry.
All facts, no printer.
No,
all carnival, no games.
Oh yeah, no. So like now I had to go through everything I did in the past to feel the way I do about relationships now. Yeah. So if you're a freshman coming in, don't be discouraged.
But also, like, if you are coming in, because I was one of the few that came in that had a boyfriend going into college, and we were doing long distance because I was living back home in Colorado, or he lived back home in Colorado, and it wasn't the distance necessarily. In some cases, the distance does become an issue because you don't have that intimacy, or like that connection kind of feels a little wonky, like the Wi-Fi's not working. But I also had other reasons too, for breaking up with my ex-boyfriend. But in some cases, like, that also isn't true. Like, you don't have to break up with your boyfriend when you get into college, or your girlfriend or your partner or whatever. But one thing though is that I do wish that, or I guess I am happy that I got to experience college before getting into another relationship. Getting to experience, a year and a half to 2 years of, what kind of people, like, what kind of partner am I looking for? But also finding a sense of, like, this is what I want as a person, and as a woman, this is what I expect. And also spending time, because, like, I dated throughout high school. There wasn't a time where, like, I felt like I didn't have a boyfriend, and so I never was, like, alone. I never, like, was not alone. And so finally, like, being alone, being in college, and being far from home, I was so scared, because it's just like, oh, I'm vulnerable now.
Yeah,
Like, what's gonna happen? Like,
you
who
don't
can I go
realize
to?
who you are until you're forced to be
Alone,
single.
yeah, or
alone,
single or
and,
alone,
like,
and it's incredibly like intimidating because you're like, oh my god, like this new identity, I have no idea who I am. Like, who am I looking at?
mhm.
But it was so exhilarating, like being single for once and just like being able to do what I wanted because it made me happy, or being able to take care of myself
Mhm.
because it made me happy. And I always, wrote down things that I loved about myself that I knew deep down was stem rooted from me, not from what people tell me, but because I tell myself that.
Mhm.
And that was something that I had to learn to, grow confidence in before I could accept someone to tell me that as well. Because this sounds cheesy, but you literally have to love yourself first before you can accept someone to
Yeah.
come and love you as well. Because that it makes you a more stronger person and a more confident person, because you shouldn't have to rely on, a whole lot of things. But it's always nice to have like a partner that supports you and pushes you, and I'm lucky to
Absolutely.
have that partner. But I also am very proud of myself for being able to love myself first. Because now, I'm more confident as ever, and I
Yeah.
feel more empowered as ever. And I think every person should go through that phase.
Absolutely.
And like I said, it doesn't have to be, break up with your partner right now and experience college, because
No,
like that's
that's not
not
it
what
for
it's
everyone.
about. But for if that ends up being you and you're in that circumstance, then take time to reflect about what you love about yourself.
Yeah.
Not because of what people tell you, but what you genuinely deep down in your tummy and your heart think, like, this is why I love me.
Mhm.
And you'd be surprised because I'm sure tons of people would also agree. But yeah, that's just a little word to the wise.
No, yeah, I think you make like a really good point of it's so beneficial to go through that season of not having to rely on anybody
Mm-hmm.
um for the way that you're feeling, or the way that you look at yourself, um because the way I like look at how a dynamic in a relationship um really like works and like flourishes is when both people can still be their own two people,
Yes.
but they complement each other being together.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
if you are in this point where you are relying on, somebody else or other people to determine how you look at yourself, you're not your own person.
Yeah.
And you are really going to struggle, you know, just being okay with you.
Yeah.
And so yeah, really taking hold of that phase of not having anyone is very, very empowering.
Mm-hmm.
And it just ultimately, yeah, makes you such a strong person.
Because then once you do find that person that compliments you, it's like, well, I don't have to now lower my expectations or lower my sense of self to, you know, compliment this person. Like, if they can raise me higher, and if they can,
Exactly.
if they can push me more and motivate me more and make me become even more like empowered and more confident, then like, kudos to you. Like, that's great.
Yes.
You should never have to settle for someone who, thinks that, you should always dumb yourself down
Yeah.
and, heavily rely on only their feedback, when you're like, I know I'm a good person. I know I'm hot. Like, I know that, I know I do good things.
Yeah.
I don't need someone to tell me that.
Yeah.
Like, that it should always be a complimenting side,
Mm-hmm.
and never also like a force, like a one force deal.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's also a lot of, relationship struggles too, where everything is usually one sided.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also something that I think is important to bring up. And, again, going back to like the self love and the self awareness, I think is also important.
Yeah. No, I fully agree with that. That kind of brings us to another little topic. Um, moving on in a close campus bubble.
Okay.
So I know, as little freshmen, you meet people that you go to college with, and dealing with a breakup while both of you are still on the same campus can be so difficult. Trying to move on from that
Mm-hmm.
can be very, very,
Beautiful.
Hey.
Thank you.
So like
so like how was I was gonna say, so I mean, you have experience with that.
I do have my experience is a little different. We weren't necessarily on the same campus, but in the same town.
Which still feels relatively like still really tight and like
it is
really close.
It is. I mean, in Hastings,
Yeah.
our town is so tiny. But like, I don't know. My biggest thing with moving on while still being around that person, or like, still seeing them walking
out at the
class
functions,
or out at the functions, or
Yep.
Driving by, all of a sudden you see their car. It's okay.
Isn't that weird? Like when you break up with that person, you see like that type of car.
I don't know if
that works. I'm sorry, this is a tangent for a second. But like, yeah, like you see that type of car,
Everybody
or like
drives that car.
Yeah, you're like, oh my god, like what?
You don't realize how
you never noticed it
prominent
before until after, and you're like, what the heck?
No.
That side tangent.
No,
Anyways, continue.
Make a good point. But no, yeah, like it's one of those things. I feel like I hear a lot of people, or a lot of situations where after a couple breaks up,
especially on campus,
one of them either transfers, or moves back to home, or wherever home is, or just you never see them. Ever again,
like they don't come out as much anymore.
Come out because they don't want to run into that other person. But depending on the situation of the breakup, it could be bad. I get it. There's so many different things that could happen in it. But my biggest advice is keep doing your same routine.
Yeah,
like even though you're gonna see them potentially, you might not. That's the thing. Like, you don't realize how often you don't see them, But, like, just keep doing your thing. Don't try to make it, like, don't be on the search to try to see them everywhere.
Yeah.
Unless
like, it becomes a point of, like, safety reasons.
Yeah, that's a completely different
situation. Then that's, like, a completely different situation. If you're in a spot where you need help, please contact, like, Title IX resource officers or, the Dean of Students. Like, please do that.
Yeah, it completely is dependent on the terms of the breakup.
But, like, in a situation where it was kind of just like,
it was kind of,
oh my gosh, like, I don't love you, like, blah blah blah. Like, if it's like a breakup, not like, oh, I fear for my life because they might come after me, like, type situation. Like, we're not talking about that, but in that kind of situation,
life moves on.
Yes,
you don't have to pause your life just so you don't have to see them walking to their next class.
Yes, and here's the thing too, is also, like, especially for freshman year, it, like, anything that happens is just like a fever dream. It goes by incredibly fast, and like that person that you might have had a fling with will most likely not really remember or will forget about it 2 years after. So by the time you're juniors, it's like dust in the wind. It's gone.
Well, and that's also the thing too, like, with those, like, situations of flings or, situationships and stuff. In my experience, people that I will say, like, I haven't gotten, like, super close to, like, a lot of people here, in that extent. But people I've attempted to talk to or, like, gone on dates with my freshman year, I see them now and there's nothing. Or, like, some of them I'm good friends with.
Yeah, I was like, gonna say, like, half the time it's like you end up like
being like work. Good friends.
You're like, oh, I guess we can just be friends, and then you end up being like hangout buddies. Like, let's go grab some food or something.
Yeah, so you don't really have to, like,
or, like, can you give me a ride to practice?
No, actually, can you give me a ride to practice? Like, my car broke down.
I forget the fact that, like, we, like, cuddled and watched, like, movies and stuff. I'm just like, I'm gonna ignore that. Just take me to practice. Thanks.
Oh gosh.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, friend.
Thanks, friend. That's another good point, actually. Like, friend zoning is so prevalent now, which is okay. I friend zone a lot of people. I'm not gonna lie. But I think that's another thing. People shouldn't be afraid of friend zoning.
It's gonna happen.
It is.
I mean, I feel like friend zoning is a little less, like, it's a little less harsher, just being like, I just don't find you attractive.
No,
like, it's just like, Because, like, you still find them genuine. It's just,
Yes.
like, I'm sorry, but there's just not a connection. But I would still like to form a different type of connection that's
yeah, like
not
a different
romantic.
kind of bond.
Yeah.
And that's like distinguishing.
Got it.
Wait.
Got it, girl.
Distinguishing
There you go.
the difference between being attracted to somebody or just wanting a friendship with them, and communicating that early on.
For the love. Yeah, so
For
that
the
way
love.
it's not confusing, and then it's like this person
You're already
said
kind
this,
of like
but, oh, you said
stuck in
this,
there.
or you know, giving the assumption like, oh, you insinuated this because you said this.
Mhm.
Like, no, like setting clear boundaries. That is what we should talk about, is boundaries. Setting, especially when it comes to friend zoning or relationships. Like, if you have any type of stipulation, like, hey, I just want to be friends. Yeah, tell them like as
soon as you realize that, like,
oh,
that's
they don't
not,
feel that way either.
yeah, like as soon as you feel that, it's got to be talked about,
Yeah,
because
it's just gonna be awkward.
it's gonna be awkward, or if you don't mention anything, you're gonna end up getting into situations that you don't want to be in, with somebody, like getting in too deep with a person, and then end up hurting their feelings, or ruining a potential friendship,
exactly,
because nothing was talked about early on. So it's just so much easier that as soon as you feel that, like,
I don't know, I don't think they feel the same.
I don't think they feel the same, or I don't know if I feel like, have that conversation. It's so much easier.
Yes.
Like, I don't know. I've had to do that. I've done that multiple times now, knowing what I want in a relationship. It's just so much easier to friend zone, and now I'm great friends with them.
There you go.
I
guess for some people it works.
Some people it works. Friend zoning is great. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you'll never talk to him again.
Queen of friend zoning.
Sometimes you'll never talk to him again. Don't get me wrong, but it's so much easier than end up getting too far in.
Yeah,
and then feeling really bad for not feeling the same way. But
what else you got?
Let's see. Another intermission. My main things were, like hookup culture, kind of getting in the way of genuine connection, genuine love, like having that mindset flip.
I think as long as you go out knowing who you are as a person, what you want, and also being okay with being forward about what you want too. Because I feel like that also doesn't get talked about a lot, is people are afraid to be confident about what they like because they're afraid that their standards are too high for people. And sometimes that's the case. But there are people, I promise there are people out there
that are going to match those high standards.
And like, they don't necessarily have to be high. It could just be like
your personal standards.
Yes, absolutely.
Because they might not be high in your eyes, but they could be, to the moon for somebody else.
Exactly. So just being confident and knowing what you want, establishing clear boundaries as far as like, I don't think this is going anywhere romantically and I'd rather stay friends. Just communication.
Or
is, like,
or if you are very interested in somebody, also communicating that.
Just tell them.
Yeah.
Like, they're not, like gonna, I don't know, like, it's not hard. Just, just no, just go out and just be confident. And you know what? If they reject you, then so what? You have so many years of life to get rejected and to get accepted.
Exactly.
So like, why is it going to matter right now? Like, it's not.
It might feel like it matters in the moment, but
for your social ego, it will.
For your social ego, yes, but like
it won't
2 weeks.
No, in 10 years.
In 10 years, you're not even gonna think about it.
Exactly. So, yeah, just be confident, know what you want, and if you're in a good relationship, kudos to you. If you're in a rocky place, just especially if it's coming to a point where it might be dangerous or you might need help, please seek out resources. They're always available for people and available to you if that is you. But other than that, just go out and just be confident and be genuine.
Yeah. No,
and
figure out what people
heck
like.
off Tinder.
Get off Tinder.
Get off.
Nobody
and go
wants
actually
Tinder.
talk to people.
Nobody wants
For the
Tinder.
love of God, please. Other than that,
that's it.
well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please make sure to like, subscribe, review, comment if you would like, and we look forward to seeing you guys on the next episode. Toodles!